Is this the beginning of the end for BTS? Taehyung suddenly reveals something about Jungkook that makes millions of soldiers around the world cry. The sentence is simple, but the impact is like a storm that breaks the hearts of fans. Is it true that Jungkook will choose a separate path from the group that has raised him? Or is this just the tip of the iceberg of a big secret that has been hidden for so long? Why does this statement feel so personal, as if an old wound has been reopened? Have you ever felt the moment when the world stopped turning? A sentence is spoken, then silence envelopes all sounds, and your heart feels pulled to the bottom. That's exactly what happened in the K-pop world when Taehyung, one of the BTS members known for his shady looks and rarely spoken words without meaning, suddenly threw in a statement that left millions of ARMY holding their breath. The statement was not an ordinary opinion, but an emotional confession, containing something that seemed to be greater than just the relationship between the members of the group. More than that, his words raised questions that even the most devoted fans weren't ready to hear. That night, the atmosphere was warm. A routine interview session that was supposed to be a promotional event for BTS's latest project actually turned into a stage for expressing feelings that were never expected. Taehyung, who usually chooses words carefully, this time looked hesitant at the beginning, as if there was an inner battle going on inside him. Then, with a slightly trembling voice, he said something that made the space seem frozen. Maybe he will choose his own path. Suddenly, the mood changed. The fans who watched the live broadcast stared at the screen in disbelief. Who is Taehyung talking about? Why does that sound like a goodbye? And why is it that when he says it, the camera catches the glassy look in his eyes? It didn't take long for speculation to flood social media. Hashtags such as hashtag stay with BTS, hashtag Taehyung about Jungkook, and hashtag BTS separation began to top trending topics in various countries. ARMY, who has always viewed the relationship between BTS members as something unshakable, is now made swayed by the fear of loss. Moreover, rumors that have long been blowing about Jungkook's desire to focus more on his solo career are again sticking out with redoubled force. What makes this situation even more complicated is the fact that a few days earlier, Jungkook himself had shared a mysterious message on the fan community platform. The message was short, but it hung. Sometimes we have to choose, even if it means leaving behind something we love. Is this a coincidence? Or are they both related? Many soldiers admitted that they were not ready to imagine BTS without Jungkook. They recall all the moments that have passed together for more than a decade. Laughter, tears, the struggle from a small stage to becoming a global phenomenon. If he leaves, it won't be the same BTS anymore. A fan wrote on X along with a compilation video of Jungkook's moments with the group. Others, however, try to be realistic. The Korean entertainment industry, especially K-pop, is notoriously loud and stressful. It is not uncommon for an artist, after years of living under the spotlight, to feel like taking a break or trying a different path. But why did Taehyung choose to reveal it now? And why does his tone sound like he's giving up something so precious? The entertainment analyst started talking. Some suspect that this could have been a marketing strategy, an emotional trick to increase anticipation of an upcoming project. However, others judged that Taehyung's body gestures, the way he lowered his head, the long pause before speaking, and the slight smile that felt more like an effort to contain his feelings, could not simply be considered acting. Meanwhile, Jungkook has yet to give an official comment. His silence only heightened the public's curiosity. Amid the wave of speculation, fans continue to send messages of support, hoping that no matter what happens, the relationship between the members will be maintained. But can we really hope so when Taehyung's own words sound like a yellow light signaling a major change? This story is not finished. In fact, this may just be the beginning of the most emotional chapter in BTS's journey. For behind their smiles on stage, there is a much more complicated reality, one that will probably force each member to choose, even if that choice means walking a different path. That night, the atmosphere seemed to split into two opposing worlds. On the one hand, the BTS stage was still shining with sparkling, reflecting lights. the faces of the fans present in the studio were full of smiles. But on the other hand, behind the microphone, there were words that fell so heavily that it seemed to destroy the invisible silence. As Taehyung utters that phrase, maybe he'll choose his own path, an invisible line seems to be drawn between a beautiful past and an uncertain future. It's not the first time BTS has faced breakup rumors. However, what made this moment different was the fact that the words came straight out of the mouth of one of the members. And it's not just any member. Taehyung is the one who speaks bluntly about the group's internal dynamics the least. So when he does, the world knows it's not just a slip of the tongue. The camera that captured Jungkook's face on the next row of seats showed an expression that was difficult to decipher. He didn't smile to lighten the mood. There was no small laugh to signal that this was just a joke. Instead, he just lowered his head for a moment, played the ring on his finger, and then looked straight ahead without a word. That small gesture, which may be familiar to others, in the eyes of the ARMY is a meaningful signal. In a matter of minutes, fan forums around the world began to be flooded with theories. Some attributed the moment to Jungkook's busy schedule, which has recently been spent more on solo promotions than group activities. There was also an earlier statement from internal producer HYB, who said that BTS's future will adapt to the personal wishes of each member. A sentence that now sounds like a clue that was put on the table for a long time, but was noticed only after the puzzle began to form, and then broke one detail that made many fans hold their breath longer. A few days before that interview, Jungkook was seen alone in a small cafe in Hanamdong, without a manager, without a crew. Photos taken by fans showed him writing in a notebook, occasionally staring out the window. He looks like someone who is thinking about a big decision, wrote the account that uploaded the photo. The big question arises, was Taehyung's statement that night a preparation? Did he deliberately say it to begin to familiarize the ARMY with the possibilities that had been too painful to imagine? And even more disturbing to the mind is, why is that statement coming out now? The storyline was further strained when a well-known Korean entertainment journalist, in his podcast, mentioned that he had heard whispers from internal sources saying Jungkook was considering taking a long break from BTS after his individual contract expired. Although there is no official confirmation, that sentence alone is enough to make the fire of speculation flare up. ARMY, which is known as one of the most solid fandoms in the world, is now split into two large camps. The first camp flatly rejected all speculation, believing that BTS will always be together. They have promised they are not an ordinary group. They are family, wrote one of the largest fanbase accounts. But the second camp began to try to deal with that bitter possibility, given that all BTS members are human beings with desires, dreams, and limits that must be respected. In the midst of an increasingly heated debate, Taehyung chose to remain silent. He did not make clarifications, did not upload stories on Instagram, did not give any follow-up signals. This silence only raises more questions. Did he regret saying it? Or is his silence a form of silent confirmation that the words are indeed true? What made this moment even more dramatic was when, the next day, Jungkook posted a photo of the afternoon sky on Weverse with a short caption, "Everything has its time." That simple sentence again sparked thousands of comments and interpretations. There are those who consider it a message of tranquility, but there are also those who see it as a sign of separation, and now the world is waiting on whether there will be a press conference, follow-up interview, or even an official announcement that could change the course of BTS's history. Over time, this story is no longer just fan gossip. Major Korean media began to report it with cautious language, as if treading a fine line between fact and speculation. Their headlines are deliberately ambiguous, but enough to provoke public curiosity. Taehyung's statement, "A clue to BTS' future?" wrote one of the entertainment portals. While international media outlets such as Variety and Billboard began contacting HYB for official confirmation, answers were not forthcoming. Even more interesting, some Korean public figures and artists also gave indirect comments. A senior singer who once worked with BTS wrote on his personal account, "Sometimes, what's best for someone isn't always what everyone wants." The sentence immediately made netizens associate it with Jungkook's situation. In fact, a former HYBE trainee who is now a famous soloist added, "Every choice a great artist makes is usually thought out long before it is announced." Meanwhile, the body language experts begin to redissect the recording of Taehyung's interview. The video analyzed frame by frame shows the moment when Taehyung bites his lips before speaking, as well as a long pause before saying the word alone. According to analysts, this pause indicates a significant emotional burden, not just a script being read. The look in Jungkook's eyes that appeared to be staring blankly after the statement was also considered a signal that he already knew the true intent of Taehyung's remarks and chose not to refute them in front of the camera. On the other hand, the K-pop music industry is starting to prepare for a possibility that has been considered impossible: BTS without Jungkook. Several major music producers anonymously confessed that if Jungkook really took a step out or a long hiatus, the effects would be felt all over the world. He is one of the most complete vocalists and performers of his generation. Losing him in BTS would be like losing a backbone, a famous producer told Japanese media. But amid the panic, there's also another, wilder speculation that this is all part of BTS's secret project to create a dramatic narrative before an album launch or a big tour. Some fans who hold this theory point to a pattern of previous releases, in which BTS often planted mysterious messages before releasing anything monumental. However, this theory began to falter when a source in the advertising industry leaked that some of Jungkook's solo advertising contracts for the next year had already been prepared without BTS's name on their promotional materials. What makes this story even more confusing is the fact that, a few days after the interview, Jungkook was seen attending a meeting at an office building in the Gangnam area with a small management team that was not from HYBE. Photos taken by paparazzi showed him wearing a black hoodie, a mask, and dark glasses, but his gestures looked serious, not like someone who is relaxing. Is this a private business meeting? Is this the beginning of independent steps? Meanwhile, armies around the world are still torn between rejection and acceptance. On Twitter, one of the most widely used hashtags was hashtag BTS Forever with JK, while on Weverse many fans wrote messages begging Jungkook not to leave. But underneath it all, there's a sense that's hard to shake, a sense that something big is about to be announced, and the world won't be the same afterwards. As the days go by after the interview, every interaction between Taehyung and Jungkook that was ever captured on camera is now viewed with new glasses. Old videos that were previously only considered sweet moments between members now feel different. ARMY began to unpack the archives, finding snippets of clips from concerts, live broadcasts, and behind the scenes that seemed to hold clues about the distance that was slowly forming. One of the videos that became the subject of heated discussion was footage from a BTS concert in Busan last year. In the video, Taehyung is seen glancing at Jungkook, who is speaking into the microphone, then smiling faintly while patting him on the shoulder. At that time, many fans considered it a gesture of support. But now, some soldiers see the smile as an expression of letting go, not just encouragement. I don't know why, but his smile feels like someone who knows his time with that person will soon be reduced. One fan wrote on the forum. Not only that, the moment on a Weverse live broadcast a few months ago was also dissected. In the broadcast, Jungkook sang while playing the guitar, then accidentally mentioned, "If one day I'm not here, you have to stay strong." At that time, he quickly laughed to cover the atmosphere, and Taehyung only glanced briefly without comment. Now, that phrase is back to haunt fans' minds. Outside of the fandom world, the media began to relate this situation to the movement patterns of major artists before taking big steps. Many reminded that before Minzy left 2NE1, she also began to do more solo activities. So it was with Jessica from SNSD, whose personal schedule suddenly increased before the controversial decision was announced. Although BTS and Jungkook are at different levels, industry analysts do not rule out that this kind of pattern could occur again. What makes this story even more suspenseful is the emergence of reports from an insider who claims to have been in HYBE's boardroom when discussions about the future of BTS were carried out. According to the source, The discussion went very emotionally, with some members expressing a desire to focus more on themselves in the future. Not all members are on the same page, but they respect each other's choices, the source said. Despite not naming him directly, many believe the member in question is Jungkook. Then, a photo Taehyung posted on Instagram in the middle of the night further shocked the situation. The photo shows only the night sky with a thin crescent moon, accompanied by the caption,